member-based organization that supports the park in its development and the restoration of the land, and in providing connections to nature through these Saturday education programs. We partner with a lot of wonderful organizations, and today we are with Master Naturalists, and in the Butterfly Learning Center that they created here at the park, and they manage through their volunteer efforts. So I'm going to turn it over now to Catherine, who will lead you in the program.
Hi everybody, welcome. Today we are in the Butterfly Learning Center, and it is just chock full of native plants that are beautifully maintained by a core of volunteers, the Texas Master Naturalists. We're actually the Alamo area Master Naturalists. However, due to our circumstance with the pandemic, we haven't been able to be out here to help maintain it. But you can see that it's still a fabulous habitat, or you will assess today just how fabulous that habitat is. And so my name is Catherine Sobiesczyk. I've been an educator, a science educator for quite some time, and I'm excited to bring to you yard games that I developed for my neighborhood and my children, and for working with students in science. And it was really meant to get kids outside. This March, April, and May, students were working hard at a computer all day. And I saw my own 4th grader then and 6th grader spending way too much time at the computer. And as a science educator, I wanted to lure them outside to learn. So I developed one of the games called Amphibian Antics, which ties together some of the ecology pieces that are definitely part of the Texas state science curriculum, as well as our national science standards. It also has some math in there in order to just keep us thinking and working on some of that mental math that we need to do continuously. So first off, you can find all of these resources on my website. I'm not charging for anything. It's just my way to share positive educational things with the community. It's called Explore, Observe, Inspire. And it's really meant for you all to explore the outdoors and learn together. Observe through movement, all the details and wonders of nature and the science connections we find. And then to inspire others. So these resources are not only available to you as individuals, please share them with teachers, parks, and y'all can print all of those materials, or just print just a few and use them online electronically. So I'm going to start off with sharing where I'm starting with my own students. I'm going to be getting to teach 5th and 6th graders this year. And that is, we're going to be working on nature journaling. And Teresa, I'm going to have you focus in on over here. And of course, parts of outdoor education mean that we have to take into account the wind and the sun. And I even had to think about that this morning when I was dressing. I don't know why I didn't wear something a little cooler, but when we're outdoors and working with students outdoors, we want to be mindful that we are not talking at them with them staring at the sun. So with our nature journal, when we head outside, we want to be aware of our surroundings and explore that nature around you. This can be our backyards. I know that these nature games are set up around my home. I've rotated them in and out throughout the last 6 months. You can set them up at your home, but wherever you are, to look for that nature. You're going to observe it closely. Notice it says on the nature journal to slow down and observe. And when we slow down, we want to make sure that we take in the smells. We use our senses other than just observation with our eyes, but the smells and the sounds. So I'm going to take 5 seconds here and let's just take in the sounds of our Butterfly Learning Center. I know that this time of year we're still hearing quite a bit of different cicadas occasionally, and plenty of songbirds out there. All right, so in order to work on that science journal, I have our first game, which is called Habitat Construction. It's a partially dichotomous key to assess the habitat you have in front of you. We're going to start off here at the Butterfly Learning Center. On our dichotomous key, the first question you're asked is to observe the habitat. And so as we look out at our Butterfly Learning Center, and there's already a butterfly over there on the passion vine, and we want to look to see if there are those components of habitat. Is there water, food, shelter, space, and air? And if we are looking around and we say, yes, there are all those components of habitat, then we would go to number 2, okay? So let's look here. We've just observed that, yes, if there's water, food, shelter, space, and air, go to number 2, okay? And in our backyard habitat, you're going to take in what's called a 360 view. So Trace, I'm not sure if you could do that right now, but we know that if we're taking in that 360 view, you're going to get to go all the way around. And you'll get to see how we're all socially distancing ourselves here today. And there's various layers of habitat from the ground to the sky. And as Teresa's finishing her 360 view back to me, we want to make sure that those various layers from the ground to the sky are there so that there's not only places for songbirds to hide, but there's various niches that can be found by all different types of wildlife. So in this case, right now it's quite dry here. Our native plants have been doing surprisingly well, despite the fact that nobody's been here to care for them. So there's not really any water. So let's follow that path and say that we're going to go to no, there are components of habitat missing, because right now I don't see any water available for our wildlife at the moment. And so when we took that 360 view in, we would go down to a selection that was, there are trees, bushes, and flowering plants on the ground, okay? And I'm sorry, we're going ahead to number 3, not 2. Therese says you're at the right spot. I went in the wrong direction. And we're going to see that water is not available. Since water is not available, we're going to go to number 8. And as we're walking, I forgot to do something important. I'm talking to you here from San Antonio, Texas, but I think that it would be a good idea for if you all could chat in the chat box and share with us where are you from today? Where are you calling in from or dialing in from? Not dialing anymore. Where are you listening from today? And number 8, Teresa, is right here. Okay. So if y'all are typing in where you're from, perhaps it's not as dry there. I know that different parts of the country have gotten more rain. But here, we are constantly reminded how important water sources are. They're important to the survival of all wildlife. So bird baths, ponds, rain gardens, and even toad abodes are a way to make water available to wildlife. And I forgot to bring in a toad abode, but actually these rocks right here are a fantastic example of what could be a toad abode, especially as there is a pocket of exposed soil here that's going to be protected from the sun, so it's not getting that harsh sun. And if you want to see what creatures might be living under a rock, some important things that you should always keep in mind are that you want to make sure you're always seeing your fingers, and that if you're rolling a rock, and I'm very careful not to be stepping in the flower beds here, I want to see my fingers and I can roll back to see the organisms that are under that rock. Now here we definitely have some fantastic food sources and larvae hiding over here. I'm perhaps a spider that's hiding underneath. There's some nice webbing there. I'm going to place it back. It is important if you're looking at some habitat and you turn over a log or a rock or a toad abode, which is just an old flower pot turned upside down. If you're turning those over, see that you know where your hands are at all times, and then make sure you put it back exactly the way you found it, so that you're not disturbing wildlife, but allowing them to survive.
So we have people watching, a lot of folks watching from San Antonio.
Yeah.
A couple of ladies even watching from their office this morning across the street at the Alon Center. And we have one person tuning in from South Carolina.
Oh, right. I think I know who that person might be. Okay. So we've gone through here. We've identified that water is something that this habitat is in need of. You could see that there was some fantastic moisture underneath that rock. But certainly we could add, even just if people were out here regularly, there would definitely be more water available, and we could maintain a toad abode, which would be just a saucer, a plant bottom, some kind of a container. And I know at my house, I fill them up each morning when I'm hand watering my potted plants. And then that upside down flower pot serve as a fantastic place to provide shelter and water, which is what we identified here. So I'm going to have Teresa come through with me. I'm wondering how I'm doing on timing. Am I about 10 minutes in?
You've got 13.
I'm 13 minutes in. Okay. So if you want to look more about habitat construction, you're going to see that you can identify, for example, if you would like to see hummingbirds, you don't have to always set up a hummingbird feeder. Perhaps you're going to be planting some autumn sage. This game, which you guys can come back to or come and visit at a different point, it shares with you those native plants that support wildlife in our area. And of course we have our monarch here, and it's important to note that a very critical monarch nectar plant is frostweed. And frostweed it will grow in the understory and likes partial shade, and really grows easily right now. We all know, or we should know, that our host plant for the monarch we'll talk a little bit more about in the next game. Okay, so we're going to meander through here. You'll see that you can explore further if you download the game. That there's a lot of different wildlife that you can attract to your yard by planting native plants. Another great example would be to the passion flower, which I know I just saw blooming outside of my school just yesterday, and they close up during the day, but you can see that passion flower is very important for the Gulf fritillary. So we can kind of select for that wildlife we hope to see by planting very specific things. All right, so we're going to head on outside now to a second game. This one is the amphibian antics. So we're going to go check that out this way. Okay, now we're in the sun, but we're going to make this one faster so that we don't get overheated. All right, so we have a lot of different amphibians in the area. When I designed this game, part of my research was to figure out just what species could we possibly find living near us. Now, at my house, it tends to be the Gulf Coast toad that seem to be everywhere. But if we focus in, and I'll back up here if you want to come in close and take a look at some of the different amphibians of our area. If you notice, there's also option to explore frog development if we wanted to start at number 40 all the way down on the opposite end of this game. There's also exploring the rain garden macroinvertebrates, along with some of those other species. if we could have y'all type in if you would like to see a very specific species of frog or explore one of these topics, because that will help give us a start today. And while y'all are taking a moment to type in if there's something specific you want to see, I'm going to give y'all I'm going to share with you a challenge to see just how far you can jump relative to your height. And so again, what you can do in that chat window is type in if there's a specific topic that you would like to start off with in today's game. We will only have time to explore one of them. For all of our teachers out there, or people who plan to share that, Teresa, if you want to span just across and see that I just used clothespins to put the cards up on a fence. So classroom teachers, when you are charged with having your kids back to school and need them socially distanced, you can space these cards apart. Of course, I would have my mask on too, but we're keeping distance today. But this is one way to display the games. You noticed inside the garden, I used yet another way to display the games. Denise, are we getting just?
People are wanting to see.
All right, so let's give a start with. Let's start at number 1, our American bullfrog. Okay, which if we pan right over here, the bullfrog females can lay up to 20,000 eggs on the water's surface. So here's our little bit of math that we're going to involve. So what times 10 to the 4th is a scientific notation for the number of eggs? Because if you can figure out X, you're going to be going forward that number of stops. Now, if you want to type that into the chat, you can. I did for today make sure that all of my cards have kind of a cheat sheet here. So it is actually 2.0 times 10 to the 4th will get you to 20,000. And in this case, since you need to add 2 spaces, and so what number are we going to go to? We're going to go to number 3. So we'll pan on down to see the bullfrog eggs will hatch in about 5 days. Now this depends on temperature. Okay, so the question I have here for you is, what is 5 times 1.2? And you're going to need to go forward that many. And so 5 times 0.2, you're going to be heading 6 more steps. You're at number 3. So we're going to go on to number 9. And number 5, 6, 7. We get to see some totobodes in number 7, 8, and 9. Okay, so American bullfrog adults are 7 to 15 centimeters on average, but can be as long as 20 centimeters in length. Oh my goodness, and you guys are in perfect time for, the question is, they can jump 2 meters. How many times their length can they jump? And we're going to take this moment. I have a special guest here with me. My Caroline, my daughter. She's going to show us how far she can jump. This is probably their favorite way to, their favorite part of the games that I developed. Caroline, you don't have to talk, but can you run and show us how far you can jump? I've set up here a little bit of a challenge where I just used a meter tape. And I remind us that if you are 4 feet tall and you can jump like a bullfrog, then you would land 40 feet away. So you would land all the way here. Okay? Now, Caroline, are you willing to give this a try? Okay. So my daughter is just over 4 feet tall. She's had some practice out in my front yard. But Caroline, you want to give a jump starting right here? And we'll see how far she can jump. Go ahead. Okay, so I'd say her foot, thank you. here, which if we estimate, which is another great skill to get to practice, we're probably about 8 feet. So if Caroline's about 4 feet tall and she was able to jump 8 feet, how many times her length was she able to jump? Any guesses on that? Those of you who are thinking twice as far as her length, right on. And so again here, I think that the impact is to show just how far frogs can jump times their length. It's really incredible, and it has to do with the muscles of their legs and the energy. I want you to discuss more about what you think it means. What's special about the frogs that allows them to jump 20, in this case, more than 10 times, 13 times their length. So here we have a leopard frog. A leopard frog is only 12.5 centimeters long, but it can jump 162.5 centimeters, which is pretty incredible. If you could jump that far, you could jump 52 feet. And so with that, I think we're ready to share our last game. And so we're going to move right on down here. These games can easily take more than just a few minutes, but the beauty of it is, as a yard game, is you can go out and try one version of it and be anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes, and then come back another day and try a whole nother route. For the classroom, it's a great way that you could divide up your students into smaller groups. I know that for me in my Zoom sessions, I'll have my students in smaller breakout groups to explore the different aspects of these yard games. But let's go, we're going to meet right over here, Teresa. It's going to take me a second. And I am going to go back over here for just a moment. Okay. So, Teresa, you can stay in the shade for a little while. What I have here is a map. And that map is reminding us how the monarch butterfly migrates, because the next game is going to take you on the journey of a monarch. And I had to add in the springtime months, because today's game that I happen to bring out to the park with me is the spring version of the monarch migration. I left the fall version at home by accident. But in this time of year, we can expect that the monarchs have begun migrating south. I have August 18th, but that's just an estimate. The monarchs for sure have started their migrations south. They're going to make their way all the way to Michoacan, Mexico. And so this fall, keep your eyes out. We are a monarch champion city, and have gone through a lot of work to plant milkweed to help make sure that those monarchs are able to breed and send another generation right on to Mexico. So we're going to start here today. We're going to start by learning a little bit about the host plants. And if you want, the host plant for the monarch butterfly are milkweeds. And we are so lucky here in San Antonio. We have a lot of different variety of native milkweed. I've learned anything I know, I've learned from a good friend, Drake White, with the Nectar Bar. I know she helps a lot of schools make sure that they have milkweed planted. Here we have, if we're going to start with host plants, so there's 4 different options with this game. You could learn about geography, you could learn about nectar plants, or the butterfly life cycle, but today we don't have too much time left together, so I'm going to take you through the host plant journey. We're going to start at number 2, which over here at number 2, the wind is kicking this up a little, another element of outdoor teaching. But here this starts, again, this is in the spring, so we're going to pretend this is back at the beginning of the pandemic, okay? And we have the monarch butterfly have overwintered in Michoacan, Mexico since November. We're going to have our student stretch their wings and move to number 8. Okay, so we have, and this works great with 10 years old or younger, and we're going to move to number 8, where, did it tell me to go move ahead 8 or to number 8? Because this is not moving ahead 8, that would move ahead 12. I'm sorry, when I talk, I've got to think when I'm talking, otherwise it can be pretty messy. Let me go ahead. It said move to number 6. Okay, so here we go. So here we have one that's reminding us how grateful the monarch butterfly is for milkweed. It's time to lay their eggs on milkweed because milkweed is a host plant. Okay, that means that that plant is going to be fantastic nutrients for the caterpillar once it's hatched. And so that larva, the monarch larva will feed on the host plant, and they taste. This is something really cool, that the monarch taste with their feet, so that you tap. So right now, I want you to tap your feet, because we're monarchs here, and we're going to move ahead to number 11. Okay? This time I'm actually paying attention to what I'm doing. All right, number 11. And we are so lucky for the many volunteers. I know that there's quite a few, even master naturalists, that will work to tag monarch butterflies. This monarch butterfly was just tagged, but don't worry, it won't hurt. It won't hurt you, but will help gather information and data to better help monarch populations in the future. Show that you are still strong, okay? Showing those muscles off, and we're gonna move to number 19. Okay, so we're going to come on our monarch journey here to number 19. So many predators. Can you name a predator of a monarch butterfly? And here we're featuring a bunch of different predators of the monarch. Okay, but luckily you survived. Can you take a deep breath and move along 5 stops to number 24? So we all take a deep breath. Moving on to number 24, I think is actually on the opposite side, but if you want to stay where you are, I can just flip it around so that we're not so close to each other. Okay, number 24 is going to, it's featuring zyzotes, that it's one of the milkweed plants, and you have just, if you're a monarch, a female monarch, you would have just laid your eggs on this host plant, and a storm blows in and you're pushed in the wrong direction. Uh-oh, this really happens, you know. So you're gonna spin 2 times and then you have to move back 2 stops. The wind, storm came in, and oh my gosh, I'm dizzy. That probably wasn't so smart. Okay. We're gonna move to number 22. Here we have a host plant. There is one host plant that we can very easily purchase. It is the tropical milkweed. If we have tropical milkweed, we've got to just be aware that it needs to be cut down right around Halloween so that it does not breed OE, which is a deadly parasite to the monarch. You can learn a little bit more about that, but the tropical milkweed oftentimes is sold in at the big store, the box stores, and although it is still a host plant, it does come with some problems. It's so we just got to be extra cautious. So what number is it telling me to go to? Number 25. Ooh, here's another native milkweed. Okay, and even though I've been trying to say these names for a little while, let's see. And I'm not sure if I'm going to even pronounce it correctly. Asclepias asperilla. Okay, so you've reached the host plant, which is commonly known as the antelope horn. And it's time to lay eggs again. Touch your toes and then go to number 26. Okay, how am I doing on timing? I'm okay.
You're good.
I need to be wrapping it up a little bit here. Okay, so number 26. Oh, this is a good one to show. So when you're handling milkweed plants, you've got to be really careful to protect your hands. Okay, or perhaps even wear gloves, because the sap is a latex. It's a toxin, okay, and that really helps out monarchs. It helps out monarchs because if a predator wants to eat a monarch, it's not going to like what it tastes, and so that's something that you can see an evolutionary adaptation that has really worked to the advantage of the monarch butterfly. There you have it. So that milky white substance is a signature of the milkweed. And now we're going to do a wiping motion. In this case, we should just really wash our hands well. And so we're wiping our hands and we're moving ahead to number 30. And number 30. Okay. Take a look at monarch caterpillars nearby. They are busy eating leaves of the antelope milkweed, for example, which is a host plant. Rub your stomach 3 times and 37. Okay, so I just ate lots of milkweed and I'm moving to number 37. Okay, game over. As a monarch, you've made it theoretically to your summering point if it's the springtime, or this fall, the monarchs are going to be making it back down south to Mexico. So there's, again, with this game, the Monarch Journey, there's 4 different routes you can choose from. We just did one, but you can. I am more than happy to share these games with any individual teacher, community person that asks. Just email me on that website and I'll send it to you. I would like for us to all work towards planting more native milkweed and native plants in general, and create wildlife habitat. I think that's it.
If anybody has any questions, you can also post them on the comments and we will go through and answer questions or connect you with Catherine so you could discuss further.
That sounds great. Do you want to go stand in the shade to maybe take a couple of those questions? Is that what we're doing now?
Let's do that.
Okay. Oh, and I'll point out that what you saw here was yet another way to display the outdoor games. I just strung some twine and then used the clothespins to place all of the cards in order. I'm pretty excited about visualizing what this would be like in a schoolyard or a park. I have gotten to do the Monarch Journey at last year's Monarch Festival, and we'll look forward to more opportunities to do that. Are there any questions?
So this game focuses on the migration of monarchs. Can it be adapted to other species like migration of birds?
That is a fabulous question. Yes, absolutely. In fact, the original game design I got from a fabulous book. It was actually, might have been a Project Wild game that was designed around Flute's journey. And it would take the journey of a wood thrush in their migration. And so some people have even done adaptations and variants. This is just one that I created to fit our Monarch Champion City and educate about the Monarch Butterfly.
And then someone's wondering, Rose is asking, are monarchs considered endangered?
Oh, that's a really tricky question. They're not yet considered endangered, but their numbers are decreasing. I know that there's the Monarch Watch and various organizations who've been monitoring. That's why we do the tagging, and so not yet, thankfully.
And then one last question. Laura asked if you could please say your website again.
Absolutely. It is exploreobserveinspire.com. And I know that Phil Harburger Park Conservancy has posted and shared that as well. I am more than happy to share these resources. Please share them with others. Let's get our kids outside and have some fun learning.
Catherine, I have one question. How much time should someone plan to set up these games before kids?
It's a great question. So today, for setting up all 3 of these games, it took me a full hour and a half. So I'd say 30 minutes a game. Again, that depends on, I think the beauty of it is that you can use whatever is going to work for you. In my front yard, I used those metal fence pieces that I actually separated because I don't have enough structures in my front yard to be able to pin up and clip up all of the cards. And then schoolyards can make use of fences or build a clothesline, just making sure that that safety is first with it. So, good question.
And then everybody's saying thank you. It's great information and they look forward to using it.
Thank you so much thank you to Phil Harberger Park Conservancy for letting me share today, and to all the Texas Master Naturalists that I am so proud to be part of. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you. Did you want to say anything?
And I want to thank Catherine also. I hope you guys will take this information and get your kids outside and deepen those connections to nature. It's really important that children learn early that preserving our natural world is important, and there are all kinds of health benefits and mental health benefits to being outside. So we hope you'll use this information and get out to Phil Harberger Park or explore your own backyard. And we look forward to seeing you in the park at a program as soon as it's safe. Thank you.
Thank you.